Well, hello there, and welcome to day 96 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. I continue my journey through the remaining BAFTA nominees. Today, looking at the Best Director nominated Australian drama Babyteeth. I wished that I had a greater knowledge of Australian filmmaking. Having watched this film, I really get the sense that there is a certain style to independent Australian cinema that, frankly, I've only really touched upon in the past. I mean, you could say that early Peter Jackson, especially with his horror films, really came from that mould, and that informed his Hollywood vehicles. Similarly, Baz Luhrmann, again, there's a certain quirkiness and an indie style to him that I think comes from that Australian independent cinema that really is quite different from, say, the American Hollywood style or the British independent cinema culture. And then, of course, you get to things like the Babadook, which I love, and the Babadook I have sung the praises of for years, and again has this real indie style to it. But this film, Babyteeth, really brings together a series of tones and colour to it that I really do feel are unique in so far as it comes from a certain style of voice that comes from a place that I'm not entirely familiar with where it comes to the filmmaking. I can see parallels between British independent cinema and Australian independent cinema, but these links are tenuous, you know, in the same way that I could see links between Hollywood and films like this. But really, this is an unusual film and really bears digging into. So the story follows a teenage girl named Miller who is suffering from cancer. And at the beginning of the film, she meets this 23-year-old homeless guy named Moses and decides to bring him home to her parents. And, of course, her parents are unhappy about this, but they feel incredibly conflicted and in an erratic state because of trying to process their daughter's illness and maintain some sense of stability. But the girl herself is of course, acting out and responding to the fact that she is severely ill in a way that a teenager might. And with the introduction of this guy into their home, who himself is severely unstable, you really see an interesting dynamic form between these four central characters. There's something of the vignette about this. This veers sharply between pitch black dark comedy, like really dark as dark, comedy to the point where it's not funny, but you get that strange twinge of awkwardness where you feel like you should laugh because there is no normal response that you can give to certain scenarios. And then we'll flip from that to intense character and family drama. And scene to scene, it will switch from one to the other and constantly leave you in this state of instability and uncertainty. That there's something quite disorientating about it. Similar to St. Maud, a lot of the film you are seeing through the perspective of a singular character whose emotional stability is very temperamental, and she will lose she will lose the ability to be able to process what's going on around her. And we as an audience are similarly given that sense of disorientation. The film actively is trying to destabilize us and leave us confused and slightly distressed. I definitely, there were certain sequences where I had no idea how to feel, and was being thrown around from one emotional situation to another without really knowing how to process what was going on. And again, the cast really hold this together. I mean, we have Essie Davis, who, of course, from the Babadook, who is a great actress, and of course, my opinion of that is informed by the Babadook. But again, here plays this mother who you can see her wanting to retain the lifestyle that she had before her daughter's sickness, and yet very swiftly is becoming aware of the fact that she is losing control of it, and desperately trying to find ways to cling on to the things, the little stability that she has. You know, Ben Mendelsohn playing the father who's almost disassociated, and develops this strange friendship with the neighbour, who is this pregnant woman who he meets because she stood outside both looking for her dog and smoking, and gets into a debate with her over the fact that she claims that you can smoke in the first trimester of pregnancy because she read it on the internet. And he has that real sense of someone who, being being a psychologist, someone who is used to being able to process things through a certain understanding, and yet because this is the realm of emotional maelstrom, he completely disconnects and doesn't know how to process what's going on around him. You have Eliza Scanlon, who plays our lead, and like I say, she carries the weight of a young woman who is going through an incredibly difficult experience, and is acting out in ways that are perfectly understandable and at the same time incredibly questionable and dangerous. But you understand on an emotional core why she's acting the way she is. On some level, you start the film by thinking she is the most troubled of her family unit. Being a teenager and not wanting to just try and accept her circumstances, but acting, like I say, acting out and making quite unpredictable decisions. And yet you've realised that there is a certain stability and a certain assuredness as the narrative goes on, that on some level she kind of knows what she wants and why she's doing the things she's doing, even if we as an audience or the other characters can't fully understand why she is making her choices. And then of course you have what was the name of Moses' character? Toby Wallace, who of the four of them is the I suppose the least profiled of the cast. And again, he plays this guy who himself is in a really, being a homeless drug addict, is in a really erratic stage of his life. There are certain sequences that made me think back to Train Spotting and relate his character to Ewan McGregor's character. And there is something of that in him, of the erratic, of the unpredictable, of the someone who is almost the perfect foil, because his choices are his own, and they are not good ones, but they perfectly complement Miller's choices, and what she wants to experience of life, and they are a really well placed, mismatched couple. I think when it comes to this kind of trauma drama, the fact that it switches from comedy to quite serious scenes to uncomfortable comedy to black comedy, it is a nice representation of the experience of people who don't know how to live in a circumstance like this, and the uncomfortableness, the discomfort of not really knowing what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, and yet in your own way trying to retain some familiarity or some purpose or some passion, just something that you can cling on to. It's funny, really, the comedy style initially I wasn't sure about, because it reminds me of the awkward comedy of film, of a TV series like The In-Betweeners or Friday Night Dinner. And that sense of the humour comes from the fact that you are watching people feeling incredibly uncomfortable, or not really knowing what to do in a certain scenario, or acting in a way that just there's something almost like grotesque about it, in the style of a Grand Grimiol, the style of over the top and almost disgusting, particularly the use of sound design with food. There's something very specific about the use of food in this, and the sound design of food and the way people are eating, that it's slightly off-putting and gross. But again, it fits into very much that Friday night dinner style of humour, where it's people not particularly acting in an unfamiliar way. These are just normal people, but there's something weird about their scenario and about them as people, and you start to realise that people are slightly peculiar in their seeming normality, and there is something quite enticing about a narrative like this, and I can completely understand why people have talked about this film, and why it's led to Shannon Murphy being nominated for Best Director, because I haven't seen a film like this, and to present a narrative in this way and to go to the dark places that it goes. There is, as I say, there's something sketch-like about it. It does have this sense of vignette to vignette that go from a vignette of comedy to a vignette of drama. And in terms of the way the text is presented to us, where we're given on-screen messages to indicate scene to scene what we're going through. And not wanting to go too deep into spoilers, but the love sequence is one of the most powerful character scenes in the film, and it is very affecting, and it does go to some really difficult places to process. And so yes, I can see what draws people in about this, and why I absolutely would want to see more films in this style, just because they are not something I am familiar with. But yeah, it's a peculiar film. It's definitely one I'm going to be thinking about for a while. And frankly, there's something about it that I prefer. If you're going to cover the topic of illness, a severe illness in a teenager, and the ways that they act out, and the ways that they have to try to process quite difficult and mature struggles while still being a teenager who wants to act erratically and act out, and whose emotional state is constantly flip-flopping. I mean, if you sort of put it alongside the Hollywood telling of like something like Fault in Our Stars, the problem I suppose that Fault in Our Stars has is that it is still bound by the Hollywood representation of that, and that will play it safer. This film doesn't want to play it safe. It wants to go to some of the places that the Hollywood model wouldn't go, and I think you need to go there for a film like this. You need to be able to express and explore themes like this, because this is an incredibly intense experience, and it needs to be represented in a way that's quite, like I say, disorientating and hard to sort of keep your balance as an audience. No, it's an interesting film, and I'm definitely going to be thinking about it for a long while. And I'm glad that I first watched St. Maud and then this, because frankly they actually do make quite nice companion pieces. I do wonder whether the rest of the films this week will continue that trend as I get to Sunday's BAFTA ceremony. So, speaking of, as I have mentioned and will continue to mention for the rest of the week, Sunday I will be live streaming the BAFTA ceremony from 7 p.m. So please do join me if as I cover Saturday's ceremony that I won't be live streaming, but I will talk about it in the retrospect and then talk through the ceremony as it goes. If you like this video, please press the like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more videos, and hit that little bell to get notifications. All of those things do help me build my channel as I'm going along, so please do those things. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I'm constantly tweeting trailers and film news, and of course links to these videos. Thank you for joining me. Take care.